All right, we are now live streaming. Welcome, everybody. This is the community call of August for MDN. What I'm going to do now is going to share my screen I'm going to take you through some slides about an amazing announcement that we did yesterday about a draft of our work that we are very happy to share with all of you. So let me actually find the right slides to share. Awesome. So let's take that in full mode. And again, welcome everyone. My name is Costadina. I am helping the MDN team in this community call. And I'm very happy to have you all here. If you are watching this on Ermo or YouTube and you have any questions, please do ask on Discord or Matrix. In order for us to see those questions, please make sure that you are pinging Ruth, who is going to be my co-partner in crime in this community call. Also, if you are watching this afterwards and you have any kind of questions, please do ask them on GitHub on our discussions forum, and we are gonna look on them afterwards. So I'm very happy that we are all here. We are reintroducing our community calls. We don't, and the reason we're doing it because we want to actually have our community more involved in the work we're doing. Those calls do not have a monthly contents yet. We're working on it, on bringing the right topics to you all, but it's our intention to have more community calls in the future, and this is the start of it. So I am Costadina, I have Florian next to me, and we have some other community, MDN folks in the room. I am not in the MDN team, but I'm working close with them on a project called the Front-End Web Development curriculum that we announced the draft of it yesterday. So it is now open for feedback. In case that you have seen the announcement on our blog post, it's a curriculum with a fundamental knowledge for front-end web developer. I'm gonna introduce you on how you can contribute to it and what it actually means and what are the next steps and what we're trying to do. This actually allows in a separate, in a repo under MDN, and we have opened it to all of you who are willing to help us, and we are actually very much anticipate your feedback to see what you're thinking of it. So essentially, it is a curriculum in order to provide up-to-date industry recommendation for key fundamental skills. That also includes mindset and attitude required to secure a job and long-term success in this field. I want to emphasize here that this curriculum is not a course, so it's not meant to be built as a course essentially, but actually as a guidance on what is the information that you are looking to learn and knowledge when you want to become a front-end web developer. So I'm going to pass it a little bit to Chris. Chris Mills helped us to bring this curriculum together, and he's the right person to talk about why we're doing this now.
All righty. Thank you very much, Konstantina. So yeah, hey everybody. I am Chris. I used to manage the MDN content team and worked on MDN for far more years than well, I had lots of hair on my head before I started to work for on MDN, about 9 years in total, but now I have come back to do some consulting work for Mozilla, and one of the items I'm working on is this. So I spearheaded some research to try and give us some direction on what we were doing here, and in general in terms of improving our kind of educational output on MDN. And the curriculum is an outcome of this research. So the key thing to think about here is that there is a lot of good content available for learning front-end web dev skills. You know, this is this is proven by the fact that the MDN learning area became so popular in such a short period of time. And in fact, we actually started creating the learning area way back in the day because we saw a bunch of people posting on forums and saying, hey, we wish MDN was actually a bit better for beginners. It's too complicated for, you know, people like me that are just starting out. We got that kind of feedback quite a lot, and it's grown to be really successful. And as Konstantina said, you know, this thing that we're releasing here isn't just another course full of its own separate content to learn web dev. It's more of a kind of a guide to exactly what subjects should you learn and in what order. Really, it's providing a kind of an opinion about what items you should be learning as a new web developer or should be teaching as someone who's teaching web development. Really, the emphasis here is that a lot of the research is that we had people saying stronger guidance is needed on what to learn. Next slide, please. So the research that we carried out targeted 4 main groups: students/learners, so people are in the process of learning front-end web dev or a similar topic. We looked at new and experienced web developers, so web developers that had pretty much just started in the industry, you know, maybe 6 months to a couple of years in, but also very experienced web developers who have a lot of experience of what it takes to be not only a good developer, but a good and useful team member, all this kind of stuff. We also talked to technical hiring managers. There is a little bit of overlap there. Really, you could say that experienced web devs kind of fall into that category as well, but really it was a combination of people who have actually been hiring managers in interview settings in jobs, you know, looking for potential candidates to hire for web dev jobs, but also a few kind of HR folks working in technical companies as well. And then the final group that we looked at was educators, so people that are actually involved in teaching this stuff, maybe at boot camps or at universities and colleges. Next slide, please. And a little bit now on the key feedback that we got from these folks. So pretty much all the students that we talked to mentioned wanting more structured guidance on what to learn, when to learn it, what stuff not to learn, where to concentrate their efforts most, because of course, as all of us know on this call, there's a huge amount of things you can learn that calls itself web development, and it really can be a bit of a minefield when you're first starting out, what tools to learn, etc., etc. The hiring managers / experienced web dev folks, most of them gave feedback and saying, you know, they wished that potential new hires that came in front of them when they were hiring for jobs had just more knowledge of best practices such as accessibility, privacy, performance, etc. All of the things that at Mozilla and related places really do hold dear. Pretty much all of the groups that we interviewed said there was a deficiency in soft skills around the actual technical skills. So things like critical thinking, teamwork, research, planning, conflict resolution, all of these kind of things. And then the general sense that we got, as echoed in a lot of the feedback, is really a lot of people were saying, well, you know, it would be good to have a balance between the things that we mentioned in the above 2 points, but also the employability type skills, like, you know, what JS framework should I learn this week that's popular to get me a job? At the moment, a lot of courses that you see are really focused around that. It's like, you know, people are coming to this boot camp or whatever because they want to get a job in web dev. So let's give them a fast track thing, teach them the latest framework, you know, bang, 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 down the line really quickly. But unfortunately, that does sometimes lead to new web devs that will just know a framework but won't really understand the JavaScript language behind it and won't understand things like accessibility. So it's this kind of balance that we want to try and provide guidance towards achieving. And I think that brings us to the end of my little section, doesn't it?
You're on mute, I think, Constantina.
Amazing, and I was talking very nicely. Thank you very much, Chris. As Chris explained a little bit of, on the background and why we took the decision to take to produce this curriculum, I want to circle it back and inform you how you can participate. So as we said, this curriculum was built as a draft from internal Mozilla, initially from Chris and also from feedback from Mozilla employees. And right now we would love actually to have your feedback about how we're doing, and I would go into how we covered everything essentially. Like, so does our curriculum contain all the fundamental knowledge a front-end web developer needs, or do you feel that we have not covered something that is important? And do you think the curriculum is helpful to its key target audiences? Chris explained that the target audiences are students, hiring managers, and also people that are looking how to start and to teach those stuff. So do you think that we are missing some, and do you think that this is useful and helpful? And if not, let us know why you're thinking that. In order to make the procedure easier for you to participate, we actually created those issues. This is general feedback, topic coverage, and well, the third one is a common, a default one, report the security vulnerability. And the reason we did that is we wanted to guide these conversations on how you're giving feedback. Of course, you can, if you are finding a spelling mistake or anything, you can go and do a PR. But we actually welcome more to open issues and having conversations via. I will reply to that afterwards, Kristen. Thank you for the question. But we actually want you to give us feedback on the forum of issues, so we're going to have a conversation around the ideas that you're bringing forward rather than a default PR that can be back and forward on what is the solution you're suggesting and why you're bringing that. So please go ahead, and if you have any ideas, any feedback, let us know by opening those templates that Chris and I have built for you. And if you feel the templates are not good enough, just let us know. We are always happy to implement changes. So what's next? And that is going to answer to Christine's question about courses. So as I said, please add your feedback. We plan to make it available in MDN in Q4 2023. And the idea is that we want to add additional links and courses to the resources that we are providing via this curriculum. So what are the right places we want to send people in order to learn more? This is something that we are exploring for our future. And we want to do that more. So Christina asked on the chat, are we going to do that? And the short answer is yes, we are exploring how is the best way to do that in the future to make it also valuable for all of you. With that, I am going to open the room for questions. So if you have any question and you're watching us or you're in the room, feel free to unmute, or if you don't like unmuting, write us on chat and we will verbalize your question.
One thing that I thought might be quite useful to do is just go back to Christine's question a little bit.
Yes.
Because I think what I kind of got from it was more kind of, you know, is it open for anyone to come along and kind of add new parts to it or new things they think should be learned or whatever? And the answer is basically, we definitely want to hear people's ideas about new things that should be added, but it's probably going to be quite tightly controlled. Like, one of the challenges of writing the curriculum was that there's so much stuff to learn. So, I mean, when I finished the first draft, it was 75 pages of Google Doc. Now, of course, for a newcomer wanting to learn web dev, that is going to be the most off-putting thing in the universe. So I tried really, really hard to kind of just make it a little bit less intimidating in that regard. So kind of one thing that we did is we've split it into the core part of the curriculum, which is, we feel these are the topics that absolutely everybody should have under their belt when they're entering the industry, and then a bunch of extension modules, which is kind of like, these are more specialized things that maybe you can start adding as extra tools to your toolbox as you start to develop like a specialism or an angle that you want to go down in terms of what kind of web developer you want to be. So this is why Konstantina said we're preferring to get issues on the repo that we've put up rather than pull requests, because it would be good just to discuss these things first. I think a danger is that different people have very, very strong convictions about what they think is important. And if we just include everything in core, it will just become massive and long and unwieldy again. So we're trying to keep it kind of really carefully controlled. But, this is not to say no at all. We really do want to hear your ideas, but we just want to kind of discuss them first. So yeah, there's the end of my long rambling answer.
I'm going to verbalize the question that is on the chat so people who are watching can actually know what it is. Is there anything you think people might be surprised to find when starting out, such as, oh, I don't know, I would need that, or is it important?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I suspect the answer will be yes to everybody. And I think it's kind of a bit of a testament to kind of what people are learning these days. So like a couple of anecdotes, like I went and did, maybe a couple of years ago, I went and did some kind of lunchtime talks and guest lectures to a bunch of students and a bunch of employees of various agencies around Manchester, which is the biggest city close to where I live. And I was really shocked to find that none of their new hires seemed to have a clue about accessibility. And this was weird to me because it was like, well, isn't this a battle we won kind of 15 years ago? And we seem to have taken several steps back to kind of people just entering the industry, just not having a clue. And like, I think that a lot of that is to do with people just going, well, I've just been told to learn this thing called React, and I'm just going to learn that without really being taught kind of much context around what accessibility is or how to use it responsibly and that kind of thing. I'm certainly not going to start ranting too much about React, I promise. It's that kind of thing. So I think there's probably a few people that will go, well, maybe there'll be people that are obsessed about just the pure code stuff and the tooling, but weren't aware of the best practices. I'm also wondering whether there'll be people, we'll find people will be really surprised about, oh, I didn't really understand the concept of what semantic HTML is. I just know it's this thing that my framework spits out, but I didn't really get that, all these kind of things. So I definitely think there's going to be some surprises for everybody. But again, we're trying to keep that balance between things to allow people to get employed in the modern world in terms of tooling that they need to know, and these good kind of old school best practices that we hold dear, that we think are important for making websites that work but are also high quality, inclusive, etc., etc.
Thanks a lot, Chris and Brian, for the question. Ruth, I'm wondering, do we see any questions on Discord or Matrix?
Not at this time, no.
All right. Is anything else coming from YouTube? Maybe people are adding on the chat. I just want to make sure that we're not missing anybody.
There's nothing on GitHub either.
All right. Well, folks, we are here for your questions. We have 1 hour. If you don't, we might not need the whole hour, by the way, but we booked it in order to ensure that everybody has the time to ask their questions. But if there are no questions, I guess we did a good job presenting this, so it makes me happy. But I would also love to hear what people think. Has the time.
I think another comment that's perhaps useful to make is going back to the whole kind of curriculum versus course thing. We've had a few bits of feedback from people that were kind of, oh, I thought this was actually lessons, not just like a list of suggestions of what I should learn. And that's quite interesting because we did agonize a lot over the name of it, whether to call it a curriculum or not. And, you know, strictly speaking, it is the correct terminology to use from an academic standpoint. But it's going to be interesting how many people look at it expecting another load of course material. But we just kind of thought that, you know, given that MDN has such a lot of great material already, that would just serve to be reinventing the wheel, really.
Anything else? Well, if we don't have any other questions, I guess I can give some time back to people for the busy schedules. Again, please give us your feedback. We do appreciate them. I would love to reply to those issues and see what you are all thinking. Chris is also going to be in there, and Deepika, they are going to be the good helpers replying to those. So thank you very much for both for being in there. A reminder that if you are watching this afterwards and you have any questions, please do ask them on GitHub instead of Discord or Matrix, because due to time differences, a lot of times we might not see the question and you might get frustrated why we didn't reply this. So if you have anything you would like to let us know, ask it regarding the community call, ask it on the GitHub discussions. If you have feedback for the curriculum, add them directly to the feedback issues on GitHub curriculum. That's why we import them for you. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna do a last check if we have anything on YouTube right now. Of course, it takes some time. Okay, we had 3 comments on YouTube coming actually. So, hello, are these questions public? Whoever is writing this, yes, those are questions are public. I did follow all of the front-end roadmap. I think the part about toolchain is kind of outdated. Also, I almost forgot all knowledge afterwards despite the comprehensive roadmap. I think this is referring to the learning area rather than the curriculum we launched. I think it needs more hands-on practices to remain the knowledge.
So, yeah, I would agree with covering specific tools. There is always the danger that it's going to become outdated. And for this reason, in the curriculum, we mostly only talk about tools in very general terms, you know, so it's like, rather than saying, oh, you should learn React, we say things like, you know, you should learn about what modern JavaScript frameworks can do, because you get a job anywhere as a front-end dev, you'll probably be asked to work with one. So you should learn how they do things like state management and components and routing, etc., etc. Because, you know, those kind of just general concepts are less likely to change. The part of the curriculum that we will possibly need to update here and there is going to be the recommended links of places to go and get started on those topics. But that will be less work than having to recreate our own new topics all the time.
Yes, the question, by the way, it was about the learning roadmap, not necessarily about the curriculum, but thank you very much.
Yes. And but yes, Brian has also just pointed in the chat to the front-end web developer halfway, which is something that I published a long time ago. And yes, it's definitely out of date. Really, in a way, the curriculum we're talking about now is kind of a much better, much more up-to-date version of that existing pathway, which is going to be kept up to date much better. So yeah.
Yeah, so think about the curriculum as a supplement to the learning pathway we already have, and as a way to make this better. So go and review the curriculum, and if you see omissions and stuff like that, let us know. All right, we are on 30 minutes in, and I don't see any other questions. Thank you very much, Chris, for co-hosting, Ruth, for always being my vigilant person in the social media, well, not social media, forums aspect. Thank you everyone who has joined, and to the people who are watching this afterwards. Again, if you have any questions, read them directly in the MDN curriculum. We are actually welcome them. And I don't know when the next call is going to be. Just a reminder, Mozilla is having an all hands next week. So if people are not replying to you directly next week or on time and more timely than usual, it takes more time than usual. It's not because we don't care. It's because we are all in a company meeting and we might not have the time to get on those. So a reminder on that, and I guess I'll see you all soon.
Thanks a lot.